Anybody who's followed a little bit British politics in the last 3 years has noticed how paralyzed and how deeply divided the country has been because of Brexit. So this election was really described as a way to finally try and break the deadlock. Now, opinion polls had been showing for a while that the Conservatives had a clear lead in the polls, but polls had been wrong in the past and they're not always very accurate. There was real sort of concern or real thought about would tactical voting change the dynamics. In the end, however, the polls were pretty accurate and it was quite a resounding win for the Conservative Party and for Boris Johnson. They now have a clear majority to pursue. In the words of Boris Johnson, that was a real motto of the campaign, to get Brexit done. You had a number of Labour's traditional voters in the north, the more working class blue collar voters, who had voted to leave. But on other issues, they may be traditionally in the Labour camp. So the question was, what was going to be the determining factor for those voters when it came to voting? And it seems that in the end, the confusing approach or the unclear approach of Labour towards Brexit may have been off-putting for a number of voters. The immediate one will be if Brexit is much like a divorce. That's the initial separation, but now you have to determine the terms of the future relationship with the EU. Crucially, what kind of a trade relationship will the EU have with the UK? That's not going to be easy. These are going to be likely very thorny negotiations. And in an even more fundamental viewpoint, what kind of foreign policy will the UK pursue now that it's outside of the EU, now that it's outside of the club? Is it going to gravitate towards the EU, or is it going to gravitate more towards the United States? On a number of big ticket items, whether Iran, whether China, the United States and the EU are somewhat at odds. So where will the UK side? And so I think that's going to be a very difficult question for Boris Johnson to resolve, beyond, of course, the other normal domestic challenges of restoring or helping the National Health Service, beyond dealing with issues of crime, beyond negotiating trade agreements. So it's going to be a full plate for the Prime Minister in the next 5 years.